So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to start vibe coding in Google Apps Script using ChatGPT or Gemini to take your Google Sheet, add some coding, and then be able to use a web app interface where you can add new records from a form style, where you can search existing records, or where you can edit or delete existing records and have that automatically apply back to the Google Sheet. All right, so let's jump right in. So first of all, we'll create this app script by going to extensions and app script on Google Sheet. And while that's loading, I'm gonna go over here and put in my prompt. So this is the one that you will want to take a little bit to put together to make sure it accurately describes what you want to do. And that will help save time as you go forward. So it's building out the programming there. We'll take a look at that here in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and name this project CRUD web app. And then I'm going to create a new file. We'll see what it comes up with name. I'm just going to do index for now. And this is what files we should need is code.js and index.html. And so let's take a look at this, see where we're at. Okay, looks like it's almost done there. So I'm going to copy this, and this is our code.js part. I'm going to go in here, select all, delete, and then paste and save. And we'll see what that looks like. And then let's go ahead and generate the HTML. And then it looks like it's a lowercase I there, so I'll go fix that while we do this. So there's index. So we just need to make sure this matches whatever we have in the do get. So let's see what's happening here. We're just rewriting this. Oh, here we go, down here. So put in one piece here together, so we'll see what that looks like. All right, so let's copy this. I'm just gonna start from here and scroll down, copy, and come over here to index.html. Again, select all, delete, and paste that, and then make sure to save again. And then we can go ahead and test. I'm going to show you this probably has a common error that I found when I was testing this before. Looks like that is correct. So I'll fix that here in a moment. I'm going to show you how to get started with this. So we'll need to deploy. And so I want to show you how a normal deployment works. So if you're doing it from scratch, we're going to do new. If you're updating, do manage. So let's go ahead and do new deployment for now. And then do the gear icon and web app. And then over here, we want to make sure we set this permissions correctly. So if you're not the only one going to be using this, then make sure you set it to either anyone with a Google account or anyone. And if you're on a workspace, you're going to have an option to do it just within your workspace. So that is an option to restrict permissions if you want to keep it within your company. And then we can just call this initial. You don't have to put the description. If I can spell here. You don't have to put this description, but it can be handy if you look back. So let's go ahead and deploy. This is going to ask us to authorize. So let's go ahead and do that. So your email, and then Google's little disclaimer here. So you will have to go to advanced and then go to CRUD web app. And this is basically just Google saying they're not going to be responsible for what you do. So make sure that you've reviewed the code or using it yourself. So once you've done that, then we should have a webhook URL. So this would be what you would use. So you can just click on that and you can see it's popping up here. Now we have an error. We're not seeing any records show up. So if I go to right click and inspect and then a console, this is going to be helpful for us as we go forward. So we're not seeing anything show up. And so what I'm going to show you real quick here is, first of all, for testing, using the test deployment is going to be easier because you won't have to redeploy each time, but I will show you how to redeploy. So let's do inspect and go to console. So we're not seeing any specific errors. These are normal for when you use things like the bootstrap, but I'm not seeing any other errors, and we'll see that props here in a moment. So let's take a look at this. So one thing I've noticed, and I did this yesterday or the day before, and I was working through both ChatGPT and Gemini, or Gemini, however you pronounce that, and I was running the same issue with both. And so let me actually do that here. That way it remembers. Basically, we're running into a data issue and need to wrap the data with JSON stringify on the back end and JSON parse on the front end. And this should help resolve this issue. So it's going to update that. So that's one of the things I ran into and was resulting in issues on this. So let me take a look here if I see anything else obvious. So that's one thing with like doing more vibe coding like this, is if you don't really know anything about coding, it can be really challenging to figure out what's happening, especially in this case where we're not having a visible error. And so I could tell it like, hey, we're missing data. But it took a long time to work through this when I was just using the ChatGPT or Gemini to try to fix this. So let me go ahead and update our code.js. And so there's our stringify. And then let's check out our HTML part. Okay, copy and then paste that here. So I'm just going to do select all, paste, and save. And then if this is my test one, it should automatically, once I refresh, and there we go. So now we're seeing our data there. So we can see, obviously we're missing some stuff here. I asked for a edit button and we're not seeing that currently. So I'm just going to kind of work through some of these quick issues real quick. So let's look at issue 1, date. Actually, let's see if this shows up with anything. So I just want to check to see if we have anything going on here. So we have the data showing up. Oh, you scroll over. Oh, okay. I'll click edit. Okay, so let's check this out. Let's see if this will update. Let me just put an amount here and click save. And let's see if that pushes back. So we have an issue here. Columns does not match. Okay, so let's tell it that error quick. And so this is a error that you could pass back into this. So let's put that in there. Yes, update the canvas. That's one thing I've noticed with some of this, is it'll give you like a piece here. And it's not terrible if you're familiar with coding, but sometimes it gets a little annoying. When I did it yesterday, and I think it gave me like 8 pieces to copy and paste. And I'm pretty familiar with coding, but it was getting a little much. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I getting the right ones? And then you see all these brackets and you try to make sure you're not missing any. So if we can update the canvas for you, it definitely helps. So let me see if this fixes that issue, and then we'll move forward with the other pieces. So here we go. The other thing I had yesterday, so this is kind of funny thing, is you go back and forth and it won't do the exact same thing each time. Look like the index changed it all. So one thing, I pasted this in here and you can see the save button didn't highlight. Let me just double check, make sure I cut and paste this. Maybe it didn't change anything in the HTML. I'll look in the thing here in a moment. Copy, paste. So yeah, nothing changed. So let's take a look at this real quick. So I think it just was on the code.js part, looks like. All right, so let's go ahead, save. So let's refresh. And I'm going to get rid of this horizontal scroll. That's super confusing. Let's just make sure that we can save data back. And so data entered in B2. So it looks like something's happening with the columns here. So let's say that one. And then I'm going to take a quick look because it looks like what it's doing is offsetting. I don't think this is quite right. Look here. So B2 is the date field, so it's trying to enter something else into a date field. Let's see what it says. Let's see if this does it. So I'll do this right here. Edit row in CodeJS. Huh, we don't have an edit row. Is that in the index? Here it is. So I'm looking here. This is the end of it right here. So if you click on this, it can tell you where the beginning one is. So that's the one for here. So I'm going to select this whole thing, paste in my new one, hit save. And then let's see what happens if I refresh. And scroll over and see if it'll let us edit now. And maybe it did it. Yep, look at that. Now we got it changed. So that was the first thing we need to do. We need to make sure that was working. Let's see if add new record still doesn't do anything. Okay, so let me get rid of a couple things. So I want to fix this date format. So I'm going to copy this in. Change, but let's also add a few things. So one, let's see, how do we phrase this? This is the confusing thing with AI, is how you phrase things makes a big difference. So let's make dates more user friendly. Currently, they show up like this. I want them to be like this. And then two, let's get rid of horizontal scrolling and automatically resize the table. And then third, currently the add record button doesn't do anything. And let's see what happens now. Let's see what happens when it finishes here. All right, so let's pull this back into our HTML and here, select all, save, or paste, save. Let me grab my front end or back end code here. So there we go. This one, I don't know that it changed. Let's see. Yep, nothing changed there. So one thing to keep in mind too, so we're running on a test deployment here. So if we want to actually use this, we want to manage and update. And so there's our initial version that we did. So to apply our latest changes, what we want to do is edit and then go to new version. And then we could say MISC changes or whatever it is. We could say fixing add record button and then hit deploy. And so that's how we would update the main deployment. Now, if I did a new deployment, it's going to give a new URL. So just keep that in mind. If you're just fixing and changing and updating the main deployment, go to manage and use this edit icon to make a new version, and that will use the same URL. So then you can share that, you can embed it in a Google site, whatever that looks like. So we're still using this test deployment link here. And so if you need to find that test deployment link at any point, go to deploy test deployments, and then you'll see that link right here. All right, so let's check this out. Yeah, something weird. So we still have this horizontal. So it changed all of our numbers into dates. And let's see if this does anything. It does have our drop downs. That's a good thing. Let's change this to pending payment. And then click save and see what happens here. Yep, I changed all these. So it did change pending payment from follow-up. Okay, let's go back to here. Okay, so the latest change changed numbers and checkboxes into dates. And then I'm gonna go back here and see what else we have. We still have this horizontal scroll. So one thing that's kind of annoying too is often when you try to make multiple changes, it kind of forgets or doesn't recognize. And so let me add new record isn't doing anything either. Let's see if this search is actually working. So Violet, looks like that is. Let me look at, we have multiple of transportation. So it looks like the search is working. At least that's good. Pending. So it looks like the search is working, but most of the stuff is not. The edit button technically is working. Let's go see what it has here. Okay, so that one should do it. Format date. Let's give me this option. So I'm just going to copy this. And I'm just going to say yes. The format date, I believe, is somewhere in here. Submit form. Table, format date. There we go. Format document. Save again. And then let's update this and see what happens. All right, so now we're cooking with peanut oil again. So this one needs to be changed back to number, should be 100. And this was 102. This one should be a checkbox. All right, let's see what happens if I refresh now. Okay, so there's those coming through now. Let's change this to 150, see if that fixes. Go back 150, so that's still working. All right, so let's go and looks like we ran out of GPT stuff here. So let's go ahead and switch to Gemini and see if we can get it to finish here. So let's copy this whole thing. Okay, I'm working on a web app for Google App Script and Google Sheet. Here is my current code. All right, let's see if we can finish this up since apparently I ran out of room with ChatGPT. So it's telling us how to delete a record. So let's ask it to all right, so this one should just be in the HTML side because it's just a display. So that's one thing. Is there a copy? Yep, there's a copy. Let's copy this into our HTML, save, and let's see what this looks like now. And we're having that date issue again. add it here. Let's take a look real quick. So we have some weird stuff going on. Go back to here. Refresh. Okay, I guess we're gonna have to ask this again. So, and it says finish updating. We'll get that back in there and see if we can finish getting this into a functional thing before we call it good for a day. Let's copy this. Extra HTML, save, reload. I'm gonna just hide this for now and see what happens here. So that fixed that. Now the dates aren't user-friendly again. Numbers, checkboxes are displayed appropriately, but also make the dates more user-friendly. So let's copy this real quick. Apparently, dates look like what I want. All right, so we'll let that populate there. Let's check the edit. Edit button is not working. Let's check the effect. Data is not defined. Okay, so we'll have to address that too. So it looks like this is one of the reasons why Gemini doesn't seem to function quite as well. I'm already having issues that should have been resolved. ChatGPT. So let's run through this. Let's see if that didn't do anything. I changed it's true false and yes no. This is super. There's a checkbox. Let's see if interesting. Cancel. So we still have the horizontal scrolling. Let's get rid of if we do that, but let me just double check, make sure, because it says that format date. Let me make sure that showed up in here. There's the format date. Okay. Oh. Alright, let's double check. Okay, add new record. Looks like that. Okay, let me refresh this. We're kind of coming along, kind of taking a step back. I want to see if this actually does work while we're chugging along here. So sample customer. So it looks like one of the things here I want to do is get rid of, these are automatically filling in with the top option. I don't really want that, but let's see if this is working. There's sample customer. Let's see if it shows up in the Google Sheet. There we go, except for, I think what it's doing there is it's, instead of using this 100, it's just populating a timestamp. So let's go back to our web app here. And then absolutely correct. Okay, let's try this out. Save and update. Okay, so now dates are correct. And this ID is kind of weird. So adjust that. So again, you could use a long ID like this if you want. And then we probably just want to get rid of the commas in this one. But let's see what this looks like here. So this is doing... Okay, so this is generating the back end anyway, so all we need to do is update this. Save. And then let me change this to 109. And then refresh and see what happens. And stinking dates are back to the way they were. Stinking AI screwing with me, I feel like. Let me know down in the comments below if you're trying this out and what things you're running into. I hope one of these days the AI will... already said this again. Alright, so let's copy this. Looks like we have to do on both sides. So that, and then it says HTML updates. Like it's doing this, give us the whole thing. So let's try that out. See if it didn't screw anything else up. Maybe a little shorter. I think it said it's going to be shorter, so let's see if it fixes the dates without screwing anything else up. Okay, those dates are correct. Alrighty, so let's check what this looks like. So I'll save. See what happens here. Shipped, yes. Okay, that worked. Add a new record. Oh, something happened there. Let's do right-click, inspect, console. No error. So new record is now blank. Okay, so let's try that out. Let's make sure this is still working. Ending. That's working. That's all working great. Let's see if it'll actually delete. We'll delete there. See what happens here. We'll delete there. Looks like delete there. So looks like we're good in that regard. Okay, so let's go back and see if we can get this working correctly. So let's see what this comes back with. Let's see. Just explaining down here. So let's go ahead and copy this in and see if that gets us going. Index, select all, paste, save, and then refresh. And again, if you're doing the regular deployment, you would have to deploy, manage, and update. But since we're doing the test, we can just do it like this. All right, so add new record. Still not showing up. That's crazy. So let's inspect, make sure nothing else is going on, nothing else going on. And then we'll see if this ends up working. So let's copy this in. Index, select all, paste, save, and then let's see what happens. Add new record, yay! All right, let's see if it works now. Customer, select the cell rep, healthcare, follow up, and we'll leave those blank. See if it's an issue. Like it's working. There's our sample. Let's go here. There is our sample customer. All right, so it looks like it's working so far. Let me make sure this is still working. That's working great. Let's go down here. Let's add an amount. So 2000, save. And let's see if that populates correctly. 2000. All right, so I just wanted to walk you through that process. Obviously, we could keep massaging this, go back and forth with the Gemini or ChatGPT and massage this to a more sophisticated. So for example, we could edit this search and maybe add it to where anything with a drop down, we can search there. We could change this one to 2 drop downs. I think this probably makes sense here, yes or no, and then it changes to a checkbox. Other than that, this is a pretty good start for this project. All right, so that is it for today's video. Drop a comment down below and let me know what you're working on, what AI you're using, and what issues you run into with that AI. And again, as you've seen, as you use different ones, you run into maybe different issues, and some work better than others. So let's kind of collaborate there on what works best, especially when it comes to Google Sheets, Google Apps Script, because it is a little more specialized. But sure, it's fun to come up with something like this. Obviously, so much more could be done on this if you want to make it more resilient, adding login, adding all those different stuff. But I figured this would be a good demo showing how we can create a working web app using AI to help us code. So thanks for watching and have a great day.